Welcome to the CCFR Radio Podcast, your source for news, updates, and stories from the CCFR.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 152, a special bulletin episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. I'm your host, 𝐿𝐴. Thanks for joining me again today on the podcast. I've got just a couple of minutes of stuff to talk to you about in the monologue, and then Tracy Wilson will be on, and we have some very critical updates that you need to know right now and what you can expect in the next couple of weeks as well. So before we get started, I just want to thank the sponsors of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Bullseye North stocks a wide variety of guns, ammo, optics, knives, and accessories from all the big brands and offers free shipping nationwide on orders over $200. Some conditions apply. Sign up for their weekly newsletter to get zeroed in on their weekly deals and live inventory. Bullseye North is your sports shooting superstore. A huge thank you goes out to our great friends over at the Saskatchewan Rivers chapter of Safari Club International. They do a lot of great work over there, including supporting the CCFR and the CCFR Radio Podcast. Check out all their great work at SaskRiversSCI.com. That's SaskRiversSCI.com. CTOMS has been a provider of trauma care training to military and police in Canada for nearly 2 decades. Now this emergency medical training is being made available to a wider audience through CTOMS Academy online courses. This online training is valuable to anyone that pursues sporting or outdoor activities or finds value in being prepared for a crisis. Visit ctomsacademy.skillbuilder.co and use promo code CCFR30 for a 30% discount on all training. And thank you so much to our great friends over at Vortex Canada. They continue to support the CCFR podcast and the CCFR. Can't say enough about them. Check out all their great products at vortexcanada.net. That's vortexcanada.net. Vortex, the force of optics. All right, we are back. So I've only got one thing to discuss with you before we bring Tracy on. This is a really important podcast with a lot of very important information. Wilson and I are running around like chickens with our heads cut off, and that's going to go for about a week and a half. I think we're going to tell you all about it in a minute when I bring her on. But here's what I need from you. As you guys know, we launched a reboot of our Scrap C21 project, right? So that's found on the website, scrapc21.ca. And what we're asking you is obviously ask your gun store to get the poster. That's free. Ask your range to ask for a poster pack. That's free as well. We'll ship them to them as soon as possible. But there was an ask for you to write 12 letters to the members of SECD. That's the committee at the Canadian Senate that is examining Bill C-21. If not all 90 senators. But, you know, that's a bit of work. And if you could do that, that's fantastic. Physical mail costs you nothing other than the 90 pieces of paper, 90 envelopes. But if you could email these people, all 90 of them would be great. But certainly the 12 people that are on that Senate committee, the committee is called SECD. Now, why I'm asking you to do this now, and of course, if you're emailing them, send them a link to that video that I created, Bill C-21 for Senators. Some of you may have seen it. It's out on the YouTube channel. It's probably on, I think it's on Rumble as well. But anyway, if it's not, I'll make sure it's on there. But it's really important that these senators watch that, because what I had to say there took 18 minutes, and it is critical to explain why this handgun ban is morally malevolent. It is just absolutely terrible. It's just one of the most corrosive, terrible things I think a government could do, especially now where we're living in a Canada that has never been more divided. And they need to understand that. And I don't have 18 minutes with them. I'm appearing in front of them on November the 2nd, next Thursday, and I don't have 18 minutes to just do a presentation for them. I have 5 minutes to do an opening statement. So I need senators to watch that video. I know many have because they've told me as much. But we need all of them to watch it because all of them have to vote on C-21 for third reading there, okay? So anyway, I know I threw a lot at you there, but if you can go to scrapc21.ca, look down that list, participate in any way you can with that stuff, and that'll be really, really helpful because I need that done before I sit in front of them. It's part of my overall strategy, okay? Now, things are going really crazy. We're going to bring on Tracy right now, and we're going to find out why. All right, via Skype, we've got a very under the weather, a rather sick Tracy Wilson from the CCFR. Wilson!
Yeah, there's like an army of really hot, cottony, disgusting fighters in my face. It's horrible.
Oh, that doesn't
Yeah,
sound
it feels
that doesn't
awful.
sound comfortable.
But it's not a man cold, so I'll be fine.
All right. Well, I'm going to let that slide like water off a duck's back.
Yeah, you better.
Right. So the reason why we're doing this crazy podcast is we have the most insane week going on right now. Why don't you kind of run down the list? We'll get into detail in a second, but run down the list of what we got going starting from today all the way to not the following Friday, not the Friday next week, but probably the Monday, actually probably the Tuesday the week after, and go.
Okay, so on Monday, we are moving the online store. And I mean, actually physically moving it, like 26-foot moving truck, 300 boxes, like big job. We're doing that Monday, but at the same time, we are getting a decision out of the federal court from Justice Kane on our court challenge against the OIC ban. So that's going to be huge news. And of course, that'll result in a whole bunch of interviews and phone calls and people going crazy. You will be packing up because Tuesday you're flying here to Ottawa to come testify at the Senate. So that will still be going on while you're in midair. Then you're going to come testify at the Senate. And then Friday, when you fly out, I'm actually following you because I'm going to go film a documentary in Alberta. And on top of all that, I also have to say goodbye to my youngest daughter who is deploying to the Middle East. So perfect time to be sick because there's nothing going on.
Well, when it rains, it pours, right?
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's
okay. So, and on top of that, which I'll inform everyone right now, is you're seeing this podcast obviously almost a week early because it's sort of an emergency podcast. You're not going to see one next week, but you will see one the week after, which is usually the off week, and you'll see one the week after that, which is the regularly scheduled one. So on top of that, we're doing 3 podcasts in this span of of madness.
Yeah,
well, two podcasts really.
We kind of have to because there's so much going on and so many moving parts and clips, and it's like, I don't know, we don't have 4 hours to do these podcasts, we'll have to do a bunch of them.
Yeah, it's nuts. So let's get into a little bit of detail because it's important. So on Monday, October the 30th, we are getting a decision after over 3.5 years, getting a decision out of the federal court on a variety of different things, but the OIC, self-protection, self-defense, property rights, there's a few things floating around. Our claim is a lot bigger than all of the other applicants. Because,
a lot more complex.
Yeah, we want some decisions on a few things, and obviously the OIC, but property rights as well. That's a really important one. And as we said before, if the answer on all these things is no, then that's fine. At least we know, and we know what needs to be done after, rather than it being up in the air, right?
Yeah, Monday is actually a really important day for all Canadians, no matter how you feel about those guns or if you're a gun owner. But it'll sort of answer that question about, can the government just step into your life, take property from you that you legally acquired? You've done nothing to warrant that kind of behavior. Can they do that to us? Like, I need to know if that's how it's going to be, right?
And prove nothing and be under no obligation whatsoever to justify that, other than what they call the RIAS, which is the Regulatory Impact Assessment Statement, I think, or analysis statement. I can't remember. But they just submit that with a bunch of rhetoric, and it's all rhetorical. And rhetoric, not in a negative,
for the greater good.
Yeah, not in a negative, like, oh, you're all of your rhetoric. It's just like literally just verbiage, like, we want to keep Canadians safe. Looks like a political statement.
Right. Well, the entire thing is political. We know that.
It is, right? So that's the question that's being answered, among others. So anyway, so how this is going to work is we're going to get that decision on Monday. I will be available. You will be available. We'll be running around. You're on Monday, you're moving the online store. We're going to talk about that as well, at the same time as we're going to have to do whatever interviews and respond to whatever. Our legal team is going to be doing an analysis as soon as they get the decision. So as soon as we're firm on, here's where we stand with each one of those issues in our claim, then we will pass that information on to everyone. So keep an eye on our socials. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel. Keep an eye on CCFR.ca. And actually, if you want to, go to CCFR.ca right now, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and sign up for the newsletter, because we will probably send out I don't know, 2 emails
A red
next
alert.
week.
Oh, yeah. We'll get a red alert out as soon as we know the decision. And it's not going to be like, she's not going to be like, hey, you win or you lose. It's going to be pages and pages of stuff to sift through. Some stuff we might win, some stuff we might lose. Like it's hard to say, right? So, yeah, it's going to be complicated, but we'll have that out on Monday.
Yes. So you'll see a lot of updates from us, probably 2 emails on Monday, or one on Monday, one on Tuesday. Once the one to say like, here's what the takeaways are. And then another one later, a day or two later, to kind of detail, now that we've had a look through it, we know exactly what the impact of all these decisions is going to be. So that's really important. Now, now, as I mentioned, you'll get another podcast around November 7th or 8th. So that's not next week, but the week after. Now, that one won't be a regular podcast like a normal with a bunch of clips and this and that, because I will have just gotten back from Ottawa on the Friday night at, I think, midnight or something. I get back, so that's a week from today.
That's crazy.
And then in that podcast, our legal team will have had the time that they needed to do an analysis. So if we lose on whatever aspects of the case, we should at least have some kind of preliminary opinion of whether there's an opportunity for an appeal, right? Because that's important. Because win or lose, we're not done fighting. If we win, great.
No.
We're going to have to fight to get those guns back to use them, because we'll have to figure out how that's going to work. And if we lose, we got to figure out about appeals and how we're going to tackle all this stuff. Maybe we go to the court of public opinion next in a big way, right? So,
yeah, well, and if we win, then I would also expect the government to appeal. So this is just like step one in a really long battle, unfortunately. Even if you win, it doesn't mean you win.
Yeah. So it's complicated. Now, most of the other groups only had one aspect of the claim, which is the OIC.
Right.
And so they'll know win or lose, but our case was a lot bigger, answers a lot more larger, important questions for all Canadians as well as gun owners. So that's going to take us a little bit of time to do that analysis and come back.
Yeah.
All right. Then
I'm excited. I'm so nervous.
After the podcast that's on the 7th or 8th, that next week is the regularly scheduled podcast. We'll be back for the regularly scheduled podcast. So for the next couple of weeks, you get 3 podcasts.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's good.
That's how we're laying all this stuff out. Next, one of the reasons, as you mentioned, that it's just so crazy right now is we're moving the online store. We're going to give you some detail on that and why that's actually important, rather than, we're moving our online store. But all this is compounded by the fact that I won't be in BC. I'll be in Ottawa. I'll be dealing with some CCFR business in Ottawa. And then on top of that, I'll be at the Senate testifying.
Yeah, that's right. So that's going to be pretty exciting. You are on November 2nd with a couple of people, but there's a few meetings before that, actually. There's a meeting this coming Monday. I'm going to call it the mega meeting. And it's got 14 people in it, which is huge. 5 hours long, 5 panels of anti-gunners. So, I'm not going to name them all, but you've got the Docs for Hate of Gun Owners, Danforth Family, Alison Irons, Wendy Sukier, AJ Somerset, just a whole lineup. And then poor Marcel Wilson's tossed in there with them. Then on the November 1st, you've got Ben Abdallah from the mosque shooting, a couple of women's groups, and then Natalie and Heidi, both from Police Souvier. So 2 full meetings of anti-gunners before we get to your meeting. So there will be an overabundance of clips of ridiculousness, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, the good news is we will have clips to run every episode all the way through Christmas. I grabbed a ton of clips, even just from the past meeting. I was going to put a bunch of them in this next podcast, but I don't have time for that. Maybe they'll be in the next one, or they may have to even wait for that following one, the regularly scheduled one on the week after the week of the 7th. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I'd like a greatest hits of ridiculousness from C21 testimony.
Yeah, there's just too much going on right now. All right, next thing. How about a glimmer of hope? So
yeah,
we know that the Liberals have been tanking in the polls. We know that they have set fire to the country over the last 8 years and are making life extremely difficult for basically everybody but themselves, but the elitists in the country.
Yeah.
But Canada 338 has determined that the Conservatives are riding to a very strong majority, around 205 seats, if an election were to be called today.
Yeah, that's right. And it's funny because these numbers have been holding steady for some time and, of course, increasing in benefit of the Conservatives. And there's another thing they do where they do outcome odds. So it's the percentage of a chance. There's this percent chance of a CPC majority or a minority or a Liberal majority or minority. And it's shifted so much that you've got a 93% chance right now of a Conservative majority, a 7% chance of a Conservative minority, and a 0% chance of a Liberal government. So that's really good news. And I know people keep saying there's still a long time before the election. Well, we don't know that. In a minority parliament, you can go into an election at any time. It would be rare to go full term. But, at the same time, if we were to go all the way to 2025, it's almost like they'd be reduced to not even having official party status at this rate. So let's just hope Poilievre keeps it on the rails. And things are trending in exactly where we need them to go. So there's light at the end of the tunnel.
There is light at the end of the tunnel. And that's important, right? Because, we need every bit of encouragement that we can get. And we need to keep our emotional strength up, because the fight is never going to end. It's not going to end. I don't know that it would ever end, but it'll
never end
2 years into a Conservative majority, or 3 years, right? Because even if the Conservatives got in with a full majority, a very, very comfortable majority government, the work would start all over again, except on the other side of the equation, as we've said countless times. So to make sure that we get what we need from the Conservatives and we help them help us. So
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good news. Now back into concerning news. We have more information about the Tavor micro debacle here in Canada.
Yeah, so you'll remember we talked about that last time, and this was a Tavor that's been imported into the country for the last couple of years. There's not a ton of them out there, like we're under 300, I believe, but they've been imported by two different importers, North Silva and Impact Sports. This is my understanding anyways. So this is a bit of a mess, and of course it leaves the people who bought them in good faith and, through no fault of their own, it leaves them out to hang because they are out the money. The registration certificates have been revoked, and they're saying they got to turn them in. So, of course, North Silva is going to try and do the best they can for them. And what they're offering is they've partnered with at least SFRC, ammo source. I'm not sure if there's other retailers. I don't know that information, but they will get full store credit. So there's been some misinformation floating around about that, where they're only going to get, the like the warehouse price or whatever. That's not true. Whatever they paid for their gun, they will get in-store credit. Now, I recognize that's not as good as getting your money back, but at the same time, you'll have that full ability to go and pick something else that'll be better suited. As far as Impact Sports, as far as I'm aware, the only information I've received so far about them is they are telling the people who purchased ones that they imported to go and file Section 74 challenges and fight the government, which, a few different legal opinions have told us that they're doomed to fail. So unfortunately, as much as I don't necessarily agree with the classification system that we've got now, they do fall under prohibited. So
well,
you're not going to win those. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. The receiver is a full auto receiver.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you would ever win. And
you
know
won't.
who would really know that is the distributor. They would know that. So if and I don't know what they know, but if they know that these were full auto receivers, still are, they would know that those challenges are doomed to fail. And so I hope I'm wrong about that, because you have a distributor saying, yeah, go fight the government for it. And some bad things can come from people fighting Section 74 challenges themselves as well. You can end up with some bad precedent or a bad ruling based on your inability to argue those challenges at the same level that a lawyer would. So,
right.
And that's,
it's risky. It's super risky.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the reasons when we filed our lawsuit, we didn't just fight the OIC like almost all the other groups. There's like, well, we're just doing the OIC. It's inexpensive. Most of the other groups didn't file any injunction applications. They didn't cross-examine any affiants. They just filed their thing and then sat there and waited to the end, did their closing argument, and let the chips fall where they may. But we have a question about self-defense in there, which will end up with something in the decision about that. We ended up with property rights. We ended up with the OIC and a few other things as well. But to make sure that we didn't set bad precedent, we have an entire team of constitutionally experienced lawyers, the best in the business, representing us. Expensive, about $2.4 million expensive, but we did it right so that we wouldn't cause harm, and we might be able to get some clarity in where all Canadians stand on property rights or self-defense or whatever, or the overreach of government, right? So anyway, it's all that to say, it's unfortunate that people that legitimately bought these rifles are faced with fighting a losing battle against the government because of somebody's mistake. Who I don't know. I don't know what the process leading up to that was, but somebody screwed up, and now the owners of at least some of these Tavor micros are on the hook for the whole amount.
Yeah, well, I mean, full store credit, I would take that. It's better than nothing, right?
Yeah, well, you're not out a gun, right? You can buy another gun with that.
Right.
So anyway, all right, let's move on. The new online store. So why don't you start off? Oh, you know what? Maybe if you're okay too.
I know. Sorry. Okay, we're good.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, new online store. So.
Okay, now that your coughing fit is over, and thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sorry. I hate coughing like that, but yeah, I've got something growing in here.
Well, it's all good. You got to get that out of you because we got a busy week next week. Anyway.
I know. Well, that's it. I got to get better for next week. But yes, we are reopening the store with a whole new line of higher quality products. These are new designs. We've got private label stuff, just some cool new stuff. And of course, we'll keep adding to that as we go. But we wanted to elevate it. You know, T-shirts are a dime a dozen, but really, if you have a really good quality product, you're going to wear it more. So, yeah, watch for that to reopen. Some stuff we've never had before, a new product for the ladies, which they're going to love. So, yeah, very exciting. Go to ccfr.ca and hit the menu and go to merch shop, and it'll all be there starting November 1st.
November 1st, that's the big day.
Yeah, it's a big day.
Yeah, and the reason why this is actually news is because right from when we started the CCFR, the online store has been outsourced. We didn't have to have employees. We didn't have to have a physical location. We didn't have to be distracted by running the store. You know, that's how we get so much advocacy work done. But our margins were pretty slim. So when people buy a T-shirt, they're like, "I'm helping the CCFR." I'm like, "Yeah, you are helping," but just there wasn't a lot of margin left for us to fund projects. Well, now we have our own location. We have our own people running the store. We've cut our costs dramatically. The quality of the products is doubled. Like I got one of the blank T-shirts just as a sample. It doesn't have CCFR on it. I'll get one of those soon. But it's a really nice. I've been wearing that T-shirt as like a T-shirt, you know. Oh yeah. Yeah, ever since I got it.
They're beautiful new products and new stuff for the girls too. So yeah, I think it's time for the store to grow up.
Yeah.
Right?
So when you buy CCFR gear now, a lot more of that price is going to go towards projects, right? So that's why we had to make that decision. But anyway, all new stuff open November the 1st. So that's what, Monday? No.
Yeah, that's Monday.
Is it Monday or Tuesday? Yeah. I'll tell you.
Oh.
Monday is October the 30th. So that's Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah. It's Wednesday for sure.
There's just so much in the next few days that I feel like it's all stacked up.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, we need you to rest up over the weekend. We got a busy week. It's going to be crazy. And thanks for the update. And I guess we'll see you in the next one. Okay. We'll see you then. All right. That's going to do it for episode 152 of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Get well soon, Tracy Wilson. We're gonna need you this next week. So hopefully Tracy will get a lot of rest over the weekend. But anyway, as I just said in the monologue, we're running around as doing as much as we possibly can, as quickly as we can. But I really need you to go to scrapc21.ca, write those letters, send those emails, make those phone calls, and make sure that your range or your gun store has asked for a poster pack from the CCFR. Really, really important. Everything you need to know on how to do all this stuff is on scrapc21.ca. Please give us a hand, give yourself a hand, and put up the maximum amount of resistance that we possibly can, at least in the system that we have. So anyway, the next podcast will be in about a week and a half. So as I mentioned with Wilson, next podcast is going to be on the 7th or 8th. That one is just it's going to be another short one like this, an update podcast, because, there's so much going on. By the time we would put a podcast out, it would be out of date. So that's why we're doing one this week, one the following week, and then the regularly scheduled podcast the week after that. And for that one, the week after that, then we'll have some more clips, and we'll take the tempo down a little bit. But right now, we got a lot of work to do in a short amount of time. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you share the podcast. Go to scrapc21.ca. If you want to support the work of the CCFR, you can go to ccfr.ca or firearmrights.ca. Become a member or donate. Every little bit helps. You can check out the new online store when it opens on November the 1st. If you want to buy some stuff, some swag for Christmas, all new high quality swag, then you can do that. That really helps the CCFR as well. Anyway, take care. Good luck to us all. It's going to be a big day on Monday, and we will see you in about a week or so.
This is another episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Remember, if you don't stand up for your own ability to own and use firearms, who will? Join the CCFR or donate right now at www.firearmrights.ca.